moving on to the panel, who I introduced earlier, Andrew, Yossi, Kerry, and Shane. I've got a few questions that have come through that have been asked already, but if you would like to ask any questions, please use the chat to add them in, and then we'll pick them up there. So first of all, I just wanted to open up a question to all panelists, and we'll start with Andrew, if we can. What was the genesis behind, and you may have to explain a little bit here about Beerhawk Fresh and the shift that you brought about in the lockdown period to Beerhawk now?
Sure. Yeah, Beerhawk Fresh was the B2B side of Beerhawk. Beerhawk being the largest online beer retailer in the UK, and there was a feeling that, you know, there's beer in the warehouse. Can we sell it to businesses as well as consumers? So Fresh was set up to really sort of push that forward, with the idea of freshness and refrigeration being added value. And you know, we had a majority of our customers are on trade, and as soon as COVID hit, you know, we haven't got a reason to carry on, you know, looking in the same direction. So, you know, the feeling was that we've got to try and find, you know, a way to pivot, a way to look at supporting the businesses that we were working with, and ultimately trying to get, you know, that product to consumers. So Beerhawk Now was a 1-hour delivery service that we started in East London, and we were partnering with businesses who were again suffering. So rather than them having to start up their own web store, we basically created a network of web stores which interlinked together, and they, you know, each of the venues physically stocked the items. The customers knew they were buying them from these venues, but the Beerhawk Now ideology kind of went across all of it. So we could, in theory, get the breweries to support the promotion of their product across this network, rather than it being a series of individual shops that were going to happen. And yeah, we gave it a good go, but came up across the same problems as most people, that at the moment the online delivery platforms of Deliveroo and Uber Eats and all the others, you know, the margins are just they're just really steep. And I think ultimately, you know, we thought again it was going to be a fairly, you know, it was a fairly quiet space with everything turned off, but actually then everyone's trying to innovate. So what we found was we were just almost, you know, part of a wave of innovation that defined, that defined so much of what COVID has been, I think.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And in terms of, you know, bringing that service back and introducing it again, do you have plans there? Is there anything certain yet, or is it still a bit up in the air?
I think it was interesting looking at, you know, the fundamental question: do people want beer delivered in an hour? Was something that we challenged ourselves to find out. And I think there's no doubt that, you know, we've seen an enormous shift towards online ordering for stuff that we'd never normally gone and ordered online. And beer has you know, has been remarkable. Beerhawk itself is up 10 times year on year, based upon people not really wanting to go to the supermarket. So I think, you know, with now, there's it really is still, I think we're still uncertain about whether there is a problem to be solved about people wanting beer within an hour delivered to their doorstep. Saying that though, you know, the market's not it doesn't seem to be diminishing in terms of people's, you know, wanting to get people wanting to get stuff delivered to them. So I don't know, we wouldn't rule it out. We're kind of, it's paused and are waiting, but it was just, you know, that sense of needing to innovate though just felt like, you know, something that I think a lot of businesses have done, whether they've started online shops like Big Drop, or you know, trying to, again, connecting with their customers in different ways. But certainly I think, you know, the on trade being turned off was something none of us could have predicted, and it's something that you know, we're going to see how things go back once people can have the chance to drink again. Yeah,
well, I could certainly do with a cold beer within the next hour. So if I move on to Yossi and ask a similar question about the genesis behind Ripples and why you and the team started that up.
Did you say beer, by the way? I have one here.
You have one.
So what inspired us is, see this one? It's beer empty, and look at that one. So much nicer, isn't it? Back to business.
Fully dressed, ready to go.
Fully dressed, exactly. So that's really what inspired us. Let me get my camera fixed here. We saw a lot of beverages, beers and cocktails and lattes and cappuccinos, and we just thought about what an untapped opportunity to use that froth as a canvas for communication and engagement with consumers. And this is how we came up with the idea. And the way that it evolved is to become what we call today Beftop Media, which is the category with a whole media company around putting content on top of beverages with full content management platform in real time, when you can manage your the type of engagement. You can completely personalize, as you've seen in the video. That was personalizing through selfies, personalizing between brands and consumers. So, you know, giving for the first time, actually, the ability for a brand to communicate directly with the consumers on trade, on one-on-one, and impact his drinking preference. So the platform continued to evolve into higher personalization, tools for social media engagement. You know, 69% of millennials take pictures of the food and beverage before they actually start drinking or eating. And we all know the importance of social media and viral advertising. And we tap right into that. We have usage of web app for complete personalization by the consumer, or sending messages from consumer to consumer. And obviously that falls right into the world of we're all connected to a screen. And now I can extend my screen from the phone into the beverage, and then from the beverage into my friends through personalized direct messaging or any social media platform. And the great thing about it is when you look at our platform and the way we thought, you know, this is something that I really cannot ignore. You know, you can put as many billboard in front of me and banners on the web and pop-ups on my phone. We got used to ignore all of that. When you get a ripple on your drink, you can't really ignore it. But one, because it's really fun and very engaging. Two, is it's impossible to drink without actually looking at it. So this is how we came up with that concept. We started with more independent locations like coffee shops and hotels and bars. We had a coffee product in the beginning using coffee extract. Then we created a new product with malt for printing on beer. And recently we released a new red carrot extract. So all of the printing that we do are using natural ingredients. So that's for cocktails. And we started now to work more and more with beer and spirits brands, where they want to have this ability to engage with the consumer using our content platform, whether it's in their centers, hospitality centers, whether it's in active marketing activations, or placing ripple makers across bars in order to boost their sales. And this is basically a large part of our business now.
That's great, Yossi. I mean, obviously in some parts of the world, bars are opening up now, and you have your pint of Guinness. But what about people who are at home? How can they get this at home?
So it's a great question. Well, at home, first of all, consumer participate in that game through bars. Our focus right now is B2B, although I have to admit that we're getting more and more demand for people that want to have that at home, either for fancy dinner parties, kids, not for beer, hopefully, more for hot cocoa and milkshakes. We have a lot of people want to put it on their yachts and things like that. From time to time, officially we're not selling into private customers. Some of them manage to buy through their friend that has a bar. So at the moment, our focus is really on the B2B. On brands, spirits brand, beer brands, bars, restaurants, large chains. You know, the B2C market for the device itself, we're not there yet. But consumers have full participation in everything we do. So, you know, if you look at our Instagram page, it's all full of consumer posts and consumer activities. So they enjoy it through going to a bar, which hopefully we'll all be able to do.
Excellent. All right. Look forward to that, Yossi. So I'd like to go on to Kerry Harrison now and hear a little bit more about Monka's Garkle and you know, why this came about. What was the need you were addressing?
I think our need generally at Tiny Giant, and we set up 2 creative people. We've been in the world of marketing and advertising for 20 years, around 20 years. And what we really wanted to do was create an agency that was all about creating standout, so helping our clients to really stand out. We had this idea really that so much stuff is very vanilla out there. A lot of stuff is very bland. We're really good at blocking out advertising now. It's just, you know, it just looks like wallpaper. So our whole mission really as Tiny Giant is to create really beautiful experiences and do something different to help brands to stand out in a very crowded marketplace. And we're also really interested in technology and how creativity and technology can blend together to do something that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And one of the first projects we did was really to explore AI and how AI or machine learning could be used from a textual point of view. So we were looking at how we could use neural networks, a recurrent neural network using text. And we thought it would be a really great idea to see what we could do about creating a recipe, because the recipes are relatively formulaic and relatively short in terms of text, and they don't necessarily have a narrative within them. So it's something that we could create with AI relatively easily. And we started off by doing cupcakes, and then we moved on to cocktails, which was really fun. And we basically trained a neural network on hundreds and hundreds of cocktail recipes. So everything from really contemporary right through to all the old favorites. And we trained a neural network on that until it was able to generate its own cocktail recipes. And then we took those recipes to an amazing mixologist who then picked out the best ones and turned them into cocktails that people could drink. And we served those up at our event, and they've also since been served up at huge events all over the world, from really big events with Deloitte through to the Austrian Patent Office on the top of a mountain. People really loved the fact that they were so surprising and so different, and just something that people hadn't really ever tasted before. But I think also from an AI point of view, the events space really enjoyed it because it made AI almost into something that was very tangible, and that was really great. And also just it was a great starting talking point for people. So we started off in this world of AI cocktails, which went much bigger than we expected, because for us it was just a bit of a project to see how we could combine creativity and tech. And then we had the idea, and we approached and we worked with John on this as well, who went to the gym company in Bristol and asked if they might be interested in using the technology to really stimulate the creative process and help them with their gin. So a lot of the learnings that we had gathered, I suppose, through creating the cocktails, we then applied into the world of gin, and we took it a little bit further with them. So we trained a neural network in the same way on hundreds and hundreds of botanicals, so pretty much around about 1,000 botanicals, until it was able to generate a range of sort of botanical recipes. And then we teamed up with the distillery, who were then able to choose the ones that they felt had the most promise. The ones, I mean, some of them are complete, I have to be totally honest, some of them are totally bonkers. Some of them are really surprising and really beautiful. And so the guys chose 2 and tried out those. And then we went with the one that was called Monka's Garkle. So it was a recipe creation, but we also used AI for the naming process as well. So we trained a neural network on hundreds and hundreds of gin names, but also beer names as well, because beers often have really interesting names, and generated a whole bunch of names that and Monka's Garkle is the one they chose. And as it said in John's video earlier, it sounds quite nice and just a little offbeat. So that's what we went with. And then we also used AI and algorithms for the label generation as well. So we got a human designer to provide us with a range of backgrounds, textures, fonts and colors. And we then created an algorithm which enabled us to generate literally a label design at the touch of a button. So you press a button and you have a new label design. We ideally wanted them to do an individual label design for every single gin bottle, which would have been gorgeous, but we just had the budget to do one, so they got obviously a huge choice and went with the one that they went with. So we really wanted to push the boundaries on what was possible creatively, and I think the thing that they really enjoyed was the fact that they wouldn't probably have made a gin using all those ingredients before, but because of the interesting combinations, it pushed them out of their comfort zone, which we were really excited about. And obviously the naming and the digital design has been a really interesting part of it as well. So we've actually taken the sort of tool that we created for the design of the labels, we've now created and used for a branding project, which we're just going out with in the next week or so. So yeah, so that's how it all started. So it just started from a personal project and then went out into then. There's probably lots more scope and lots more exciting things we can do in that space.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and we'll come back to some of those plans in a second. And you touched on personalization as well. But I do want to get to Shane and hear a little bit more about downstream and how you're sort of making blockchain a bit more interesting and bringing it to life a bit more. So love to hear more from you, Shane.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, the whole concept around downstream, you know, that originally was to add a level of transparency using the most relevant technology available in the digital market. So we started back in 2017. Ireland Craft Beverages itself is an export company. We work with independent and rural breweries, artisan, passionate people around Ireland that make really, really interesting and innovative products in themselves. So for us, we were creating global supply chains and we wanted to really tell the story, but also the trust and transparency was a huge factor. A lot of these guys, you know, they spend days, weeks, weekends in breweries, mainly passionate about their product. And even, I suppose, when we looked at it from the export and the domestic markets, a lot of these guys still get squeezed by big commercial players that have limitless marketing budget. So for us, we seen that, you know, some pseudo craft was coming in. It's all being owned by the same multinational companies. So we wanted to actually give them a digital platform to give to the consumer. So we wanted to create an immutable digital supply chain. Because we are creating the supply chain, we have the ability to give every single audit point on whether it was the malts and the hops to the water, you know, which is probably the most important in some aspects in the mineral makeup of the water for your beer, which makes over 90% of it. So fundamentally, it had to be about the beer. We spent quite a bit of time creating innovative recipes. And Downstream itself is a collaborative brand. We're probably on our third brewery, where it tells the story of the provenance. And it, as I mentioned, it adds a secured audit trail. The word blockchain is somewhat of a buzzword that people throw about to a degree. This, yes, it was the first product to use blockchain in the beer world, but all it really is a secure database. The same way that someone might have a database for their brew sheet or how they do things on a daily basis. This basically is a centralized network that every single event is timestamped. So when you start the brew process, the mash tun, the whole way through to your packaging date. And as you mentioned, John, the difficult element was to make this not about the big data, because big data is so controlling in everything that people do in every industry. So we wanted to actually simplify that as much as possible. So we worked with a UX, UI company to integrate the factual data into a very visual experience and engaging experience for the consumer. So even as Yossi had mentioned there's a lot of overlaps here, I think, in the digital aspects that people are bringing, where we wanted a lot of consumers take photos of their beers on a daily basis. And for us, you know, we done a lot of research and development into using certain clicks in a can to, you know, QR codes that are used by billions of people outside the Western world. They somewhat still use barcodes. QR codes are a lot more secure. So we wanted to use that as the engaging factor of the product, and that's why on Downstream it is front and center. So when you go to actually take a picture of the beer, it prompts you into the digital experience, and then when you go down through the storyline, you will see the pictures of the brew day, you'll see the drone elements of the water being used, the pictures of rural Ireland, and really take that next level into allowing consumers to experience the provenance of what they're drinking. I think if every product was at this level of transparency, consumers would certainly be probably dumbfounded in the amount of contract beers or brands that are all done at certain facilities, or how it's done. So that was our inspiration at in bringing Downstream to market, and it's went very well, and we've got fresh beers in market, and we're doing a new storyline with one of the local breweries here. The whole vision is to work around all of the breweries in Ireland and really tell this story digitally, but also allowing the consumer to engage with it. And you can play about with that if you want to talk about the sustainability aspects of breweries, or if you want to talk about the location or the provenance. There's lots that you can integrate very easily once you've got the core UX built and the storyline. So that's where Downstream story has kind of evolved over the last number of years.
That's great, Shane, and really good to hear about how you sort of use the technology to create extra value for the user and different people within the supply chain there. A question that's come up on the chat for any of the panel that I think is quite interesting about the on-trade and independent on-trade and how they can best utilize digital over the next few crucial weeks and months. So as the on-trade starts to open up in the UK, I know in some other markets it's already open, but how can the on-trade really use digital? Any of the panel want to jump in on that?
Sure, I'll be happy to. Actually, we during the lockdown, what we've been doing since most of our customers, as you can imagine, were closed, and the global print volume got to almost zero. We started to think with our customers about the day after. So how do you come back to business, and how do you start creating engagement with consumers in a way that will draw them back into the bar? So starting from what I had here before, very simple. We're back, coming back to business, messaging about hope and coming back to business. Through very nice collages. So 3 glasses of beer, we're back to that, say we are back together, 4 glasses, and we created a few collages like that. So to attract people back and kind of celebrate the moment of we're not drinking alone at home anymore, we are back to the bar, creating those fun moments for them that they can then go enjoy, post, and bring people back into the location. We've been working quite tightly with a lot of the brands on their campaigns, because all of the spirits and beer brands are now working on their campaigns to come back to business. We've been working tightly with them as well on how to support the bars doing that, how to support the bars, getting people back into the bar, and also how do you overcome some of the challenges of the new normal, social distancing? How do you create emotional engagement with your customer when you have a mask on? We're working on how do you break through all of these challenges using our technology. So coming to it selfishly from what we've been doing in the past 4 months. And the technologies we developed and the work that we've done. But for us, that was a big thing of what we did recently, took advantage of this time that we didn't really have customers working, in order to work with them on what do you do after.
Great. And anyone else from the panel wanted to touch on that question?
I would say I think sorry, go ahead.
No, you go, Shane. That's fine. You go.
Yeah, no worries. So it was from Anna. I think, you know, in terms of utilizing of the digital aspects, I don't think it's a matter of starting to utilize of it now. I've seen a lot of success stories where the on-trade have actually continued their story on social media, and whether that's through weekly newsletters, you know, via MailChimp or Instagram and Facebook, and some establishments that, you know, are where you have the experience of going there with your friends, which is fantastic. They've branded up their own cocktails and their own experience in a bottle and actually sent it out to their customers or their regular customers, and that has kept the communication going, or kept the consumer, you know, wanting to come back to the establishment. And now it's really should just be a countdown timer to, right, we're opened again. And I've started to see these really successful stories in social platforms, you know, of guys that have continued to use digital throughout the lockdown and engage with their customer base. So, you know, I think they're very important to continue that social and always having a presence there, and, you know, not shutting down for 3 months and then just starting to reopen again. That could be detrimental to some of the on-trade.
Yeah, Kerry, did you want to just jump in on that?
I just wanted to speak really quickly about AR. So we've done quite a few projects lately in the world of AR. So we're obviously doing AI, but AR too. And I think in terms of the on-trade, the fact that a lot of the restaurants of ours, I know they are starting to open, but creating experiences at home and on social, using things like Snapchat and Instagram filters. I mean, with the drinks, alcoholic drinks, we can't use Instagram, but with Snapchat, so you can create a filter at home. You can use AR, for example, to bring a label to life. So you could have a bottle and point your phone at it and bring something to life in that. So again, just creating engagement with your brand, but in the home, so you still have that engagement. So then you're almost front of mind when people do start going back out again.
I think the in-home thing is a big one. I think there's no doubt that the experience of going to the bar and the pub is going to be compromised for a while. I mean, it sounds like, you know, we're not going to get back to anything really joyous and wonderful for a while, but there's no doubt that people have been enjoying themselves at home more than they ever have done. I mean, you know, in terms of what you're eating and what you're drinking. And I think any on-trade places that have been serving, you know, pints to go, people sort of taking that experience and having it at home, I think is going to carry on, especially throughout the summer. I mean, the winter, it might be somewhat different, but I think for now, you know, for anyone who's, you know, thinking about digital in the on-trade, just, you know, getting your offering out there, being your webpage more than just a map and a phone number, and doing something to engage with people so they can order ahead, come and get their beer, collect it, take it home, and still have that relationship, but not be sitting 2 meters apart or compromised, or, you know, worrying about GDPR and apps and booking and whatever it's going to be, you know, all the headaches that's going to come with it. I think more at home, but buying from our local on-trade places.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much, panel. We've got to the time now, but I just wanted to let you know you can get a copy of the full report at rewritedigital.com/launchvip. And also wanted to let you know about an event that might be of interest to some of you next week for the on-trade industry in particular, about how to work with hospitality post-lockdown. So you can sign up for that at rewritedigital.com/open-again. I'd just like to thank the panel very much for your attendance and for everybody's patience as my internet went down earlier on. There will be a copy of the recording available afterwards, so I'll be showing that round to everyone who registered. So I'd just like to thank Andrew Morgan, Kerry Harrison, Yossi Meshulam, and Shane McCarthy. Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone else, and enjoy the sunny weather where you are.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.